Home prices are dipping, inventory is rising, and interest rates are still higher than many had hoped for. The St. Petersburg Clearwater housing market is off to a surprisingly different start in 2026, and it's not what most people were expecting. So today, let's unpack what this shift means for you, whether you're planning to buy or sell or just keeping an eye on the market. If you're new here, I'm Alexi, and if you're thinking about buying, selling, investing, or relocating here, or if you're just curious about what this amazing city has to offer, I'm a licensed realtor based right here in St. Pete. Every week I hear from people just like you who are exploring their next steps. And when you call or text the number on the screen, you'll get a personal reply from me. All my contact info is in the description, or you can just scan the QR code to book a Zoom call with me. Whether you've got questions or just want to talk through your options, always happy to help. That being said, let's dive into the video. So first off, let's talk about home prices. So yes, we are seeing some price declines, but we're not seeing a 2008 style crash. It's more of a healthy correction after the 2020 to 2022 boom. So in January, the median sold price for single family homes in the St. Pete area is hovering around $445,000, which is about 6% lower than from a year ago. Condo and townhome prices have taken a bigger hit, with the median price point at $262, down around 10% over from a year ago. And although prices have been dipping, this follows massive appreciation from 2020 through 2022 when home values in Pinellas County skyrocketed. So for perspective, prices here jumped roughly 47% during that time. So even after this recent cooling, prices remain well above pre-pandemic levels. So think of this as more of a moderation in pricing versus a free fall. One thing I want to note here is that St. Pete Clearwater homes are holding their value better than in many pandemic boomtowns, as we call them. So markets like Boise, Idaho, or Austin, Texas saw double-digit drops from their peaks. In contrast, Pinellas County's cooling has been a lot more modest, and actually, if you look at the chart over the last few years, prices have been trending slightly upwards, and that is after the 50% plus gains from the prior years. One big reason for that is that Pinellas County has a limited land supply. So being a coastal, fully built out county means we can't sprawl outwards like in other areas. And this natural constraint keeps home values up because there's simply not much vacant land to flood the market with new construction like in other counties around us. So the bottom line on prices is that yes, values are a bit lower than last year, but overall the sky isn't falling. What we're seeing is a correction of the unprecedented price jumps during the pandemic years, not a total collapse. Sellers are not desperate, and buyers shouldn't expect to steal homes for pennies on the dollar, but there are better deals to be had now than there were a year or two ago. And moving on to inventory of available homes, inventory has risen quite a bit in recent years from the extreme low levels we saw during the pandemic years. And I want to pause and briefly explain how measuring inventory works. In real estate, we talk about months of inventory, which measures how many months it would take for existing homes to be bought up by the current buyer demand in the market. And if that sentence just gave you a headache, just remember that under 3 months of inventory is considered a seller's market, 4 to 5 months is a balanced market, and over 6 months is a buyer's market. So for single family homes, Pinellas County now has roughly 4.5 months of inventory, which is a big change from the ultra low 1 to 2 month supply we saw in the early 2020s, but still remains in that balanced market territory. Condos and townhomes, on the other hand, are at almost 9 months of supply, making that a clear buyer's market. When you see those levels of condo inventory, it means buyers have the upper hand because they have lots of choices and little pressure to rush. Now, what does all this mean for you? If you're a buyer, more inventory means more negotiating power. You're less likely to be competing with 20 other offers like we saw during the pandemic years. You can take the time to inspect the home, run a comparable pricing analysis to make sure you're not overpaying, and structure a negotiation strategy that plays in your favor. And of course, these are all things that I help my awesome buyer clients with when we're searching for homes and making offers. So if you want someone like that on your side, I would love to speak with you. If you're a seller, this does not mean it's a bad time, but you are going to need to be pragmatic about it. Pricing right and prepping your home well are absolutely critical these days. Homes that are turnkey and priced to market are still selling close to their asking price in a reasonable amount of time, but we've seen that those that are overpriced and not as show ready tend to sit on the market and eventually sell for less. So if you're thinking of selling your property, the good news is homes are still selling. Just make sure you work with an agent who has a solid game plan for you. Next up, let's talk about interest rates. The number one thing that influences supply and demand in real estate is how high or low mortgage rates are. Obviously, if rates are lower, more buyers can afford to buy homes, demand goes up, and prices rise. As we kick off 2026, mortgage rates are hovering around 6%, which is a noticeable improvement from the 7% plus peaks we saw last year, but it's still far from the 3% rates buyers enjoyed a few years ago, and recent forecasts from Goldman Sachs and others suggested that significant price drops back to say 4% mortgage rates likely won't happen for a while, with mortgage rates expected to average around 6% to 6.3% for this year. So how does this affect our housing market? Higher mortgage rates have undeniably cooled demand, especially among move-up buyers. Homeowners who locked in 3% rates on their current homes are reluctant to sell and buy a new home at a 6% rate because that trade up now means a bigger monthly payment for the same loan amount. And this keeps many would-be sellers on the sidelines, which in turn limits supply of homes. It also means fewer local buyers competing for higher priced homes since people aren't as eager to jump to a bigger house with a bigger mortgage payment. That being said, buyers are adapting to the situation. One strategy you'll hear is marry the house and date the rate. So in other words, if you find the right home and you can afford it, you buy it now and plan to refinance later if and when rates come down. So we're seeing buyers factor this into their decisions because they know that waiting for that 3% rate forever might mean missing out on the home that they want now. And oftentimes we're able to negotiate prices or have sellers offer a rate buy down so that buyers can keep their rate down and use those savings to refi to a lower payment in a couple of years. And to finish it off, let's cover flood zones versus non-flood zones. So real estate in Pinellas County is heavily influenced by geography, especially when it comes to elevation. In 2026, we're continuing to see a growing divide between homes in flood zones and those on higher ground, and that's mainly because of insurance costs. If you purchased a home in a flood zone here and you're financing your purchase with a lender, the lender is gonna require you to have flood insurance. Even without a mortgage, most homeowners in flood zones tend to have flood insurance as well for added coverage in case of a flood. And the problem is that homes in low-lying or coastal areas have seen insane flood insurance premium hikes, often increasing 2, 3, sometimes 4 times what they used to pay. That means that today it's not uncommon to have to pay several thousands of dollars a year for flood insurance on top of your regular homeowner's insurance. Obviously, that affects buyer behavior when a buyer has to pay an extra $300 to $500 per month in insurance expenses. In practical terms, this has propped up demand in non-flood areas where insurance costs are a lot cheaper, and as a result, prices in non-flood zone neighborhoods are holding steadier. Some are even seeing competition still, while homes in flood-prone areas tend to sit longer and require price reductions to attract buyers. So what does all of this mean for you? In short, the Pinellas real estate market is correcting to a more normal equilibrium after the craziness of the past few years. It's not crashing, but it is shifting, and smart decisions matter more than ever. If you're a buyer in 2026, you've got more inventory to choose from, less competition, and actually some time to think and negotiate. So you might be able to get in a home in a great area that was out of reach for you before, now that prices have softened a bit. Just make sure that you're aware of your carrying costs, so mainly your interest rate, insurance, and taxes, so you can budget accordingly. And remember, if you can marry the house and date the rate, it can make sense for you to buy now and refinance later, since the current market is offering you negotiating power that might go away if rates drop and buyers return. If you're a seller in 2026, it is still a good market if you're priced right and aligned with today's conditions. Homes are still selling and prices in the St. Pete Clearwater area are historically high, but you do have to acknowledge that buyers have more choices now and that the condition, pricing, and marketing of your home need to be top-notch. All right, that concludes today's video. Again, I'm a licensed realtor here, so if you want concrete information tailored to your specific move, like figuring out monthly property costs or going on walkthroughs of homes you're curious about, I encourage you to reach out to me. My number is on the screen. You can scan that QR code to book a Zoom call with me. All my contact info is down in the description. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.